A nun, Sister Sarah, wakes up one morning feeling great. She gets out of bed and decides to go to the kitchen for some breakfast. On her way over there, she runs into Sister Jane, and she says, "Hi, Sister Jane." To which Sister Jane answers, "I see you got off on the wrong side of the bed this morning, sister." Puzzled, Sister Sarah did not understand what Sister Jane meant by that, so she ignored it and went on. She's passing by the garden when she runs into Sister Roberta and says, "Good morning, Sister Roberta. I hope you're having a great day." Sister Roberta answers, "Good morning, Sister Sarah. I see you got off on the wrong side of the bed today." Sarah was now really anxious to know why everybody she meets keeps saying that when she feels so great, and so she decides to go and see Mother Superior, who was in her office. She enters and asks Mother Superior, "Holy Mother, everybody keeps telling me that I got off on the wrong side of the bed, but I feel great." The Mother Superior replies, "That's because you have Brother John's shoes on." They say about women that between 18 and 22, a woman is like Africa. Half discovered, half wild, fertile, and naturally beautiful. Between 23 and 30, a woman is like the USA. Well developed and open to trade, especially for someone of real value. Between 31 and 35, a woman is like Spain. Very hot, relaxed, and convinced of her own beauty. Between 36 and 40, a woman is like Greece. Gently aging but still a warm and desirable place to visit. Between 41 and 50, a woman is like Great Britain, with a glorious and all-conquering past. Between 51 and 60, a woman is like France. She has been through war and vowed never again. Between 61 and 70, a woman is like Canada. Self-preserving, but open to meeting new people. After 70, she becomes Tibet. Wildly beautiful, with a mysterious past and the wisdom of the ages. An adventurous spirit and a thirst for knowledge. The geography of a man, between 1 and 100, a man is like Iran and Russia, ruled by a pair of nuts. On the last day of kindergarten, all the children brought presents for their teacher. The florist's son handed the teacher a gift. She shook it, held it up, and said, "I bet I know what it is. It's some flowers." "That's right," shouted the little boy. Then the candy store owner's daughter handed the teacher a gift. She held it up, shook it, and said, "I bet I know what it is. It's a box of candy." "That's right," shouted the little girl. The next gift was from the liquor store owner's son, little Johnny. The teacher held it up and saw that it was leaking. She touched a drop with her finger and tasted it. "Is it wine?" she asked. "No," said little Johnny. The teacher touched another drop to her tongue. "Is it juice?" she asked. "No," he answered. Finally, the teacher said, "I give up." "What is it?" "A puppy." Johan and Eric, two computer geeks with little social experience, ran into each other at the college entrance. "That's a great bike you have there. What made you get it?" Eric asked Johan. Johan got off the bike, removed his helmet, and responded, "I didn't purchase it. Andrea gave it to me as a gift." "As a gift?" Eric exclaimed in surprise. "I always knew she was into you, but this is taking it to a whole new level." Johan smiled and told him, "Yesterday I was strolling in the park and I saw Andrea on this bike. She came to me without saying anything, tossed the bike aside, then took off all her clothes and said, 'Take whatever you want.'" Eric's jaw was hanging loose. "So I took the bike," Johan finished. Eric nodded in agreement and stated, "Good decision. Her clothes wouldn't fit you." On a very windy day, a rabbi was walking along when a strong gust of wind blew his hat off his head. The rabbi ran after the hat, but the wind was too strong. It kept blowing his hat farther and farther away. A non-Jewish young man, seeing what had happened, ran after the hat, caught it and gave it back to the rabbi. The rabbi was so grateful that he gave the young man $20 and blessed him. The young man was so excited that he decided to go to the racetrack, and with the rabbi's blessing, he decided to check the program and place the entire $20 on a horse. After the races, he went home and recounted his very exciting day to his father. I arrived at the 5th race and looked at the program. I saw this horse named Top Hat running. The odds on this horse were 100 to 1, but since I received the rabbi's blessing, I bet the entire $20 on Top Hat, and guess what? He won! In the next race, there was a horse named Bowler at 30 to 1, so I bet the entire amount of my winnings on him, and guess what? I won again! So did you bring the money home? Asked his father. No, said the son. I lost it all on the last race. There was a horse named Chateau that was a heavy favorite, so I bet everything on him, and since Chateau means hat in French, I figured he was a sure thing. You fool, said the father. Hat in French is chapeau, not chateau. Sighing to himself, the father then asked, So who did win the race? A real long shot, said the son. Some Spanish horse named Sombrero. A blonde gets a job as a physical education teacher for 14-year-olds. On her first day, she comes to watch the kids playing soccer. She watches as they all get together and start playing. However, she quickly notices a boy at the end of the field standing alone, while all the other kids are running around having fun. She takes pity on him and decides to speak to him. Are you okay? She says kindly. Yes, he says. You can go and play with the other kids you know, she says encouragingly. It's best I stay here, he says. Why is that, sweetie? Asks the compassionate teacher. The boy gives her a weird look and says, Because I'm the goalie. A couple of old ladies were sitting on a patio and speaking to each other about their grandchildren. I send gifts, greeting cards, and checks to my grandchildren, complains one. And still they barely visit me, the second old lady said. Oh, I too send checks to my grandchildren, and they visit me all the time. You are so fortunate to have more grateful grandchildren than my own, said the first one sadly. The second old lady smiled. No, my grandchildren are about as grateful as yours. So what do you do differently? Are your checks bigger than mine? I asked the first one, surprised. No, chuckled the other old lady. I just don't sign mine. Today at the drugstore, the clerk was a gentleman. From my purchase, this chap took off 10%. I asked for the cause of a lesser amount, and he answered, Because of the senior's discount. I went to McDonald's for a burger and fries, and there, once again, I got quite a surprise. The clerk poured some coffee, which he handed to me. He said, For you seniors, the coffee is free. Understand, I'm not old, I'm merely mature. But some things are changing, temporarily, I'm sure. The newspaper print gets smaller each day, and people speak softer. They can't hear what they say. My teeth are my own, I have the receipt, and my glasses identify people I meet. Oh, I've slowed down a bit, not a lot, I am sure. You see, I'm not old. I'm only mature. The gold in my hair has been bleached by the sun. You should see all the damage that chlorine has done. Washing my hair has turned it all white, but don't call it gray. Saying blonde is just right. My car is all paid for, not a nickel is owed. Yet a kid yells, Old duffer, get off the road! My car has no scratches, not even a dent. Still, I get all that guff from a punk who's hell-bent. My friends all get older, much faster than me. They seem much more wrinkled, from what I can see. I've got character lines, not wrinkles for sure. But don't call me old, just call me mature. The steps in the houses they're building today are so high that they take your breath all away, and the streets are much steeper than 10 years ago. That should explain why my walking is slow. But I'm keeping up with what's hip and what's new, and I think I can still dance a mean boogaloo. I'm still in the running. In this, I'm secure. I'm not really old. I'm only mature. I had lunch with two of my unmarried friends. One is engaged, one is a mistress, and I, the third one, have been married for 20 plus years. We were chatting about our relationships and decided to amaze our men by greeting them at the door wearing a black bra, stiletto heels and a mask over our eyes. We agreed to meet in a few days to exchange notes. Here's how it all went. My engaged friend, the other night, when my boyfriend came over, he found me with a black leather bodice, tall stilettos, and a mask. He saw me and said, "You are the woman of my dreams. I love you." Then we made passionate love all night long. The mistress, me too. The other night I met my lover at his office and I was wearing a raincoat with only a black bra, heels and a mask over my eyes. When I opened the raincoat, he didn't say a word, but he started to tremble, and we made love all night. Then I had to share my story. When my husband came home, I was wearing the black bra, black stockings, stilettos and a mask over my eyes. When he came in the door and saw me, he said, "What's for dinner, Zorro?" Kevin gets a new secretary. A few days later, his wife learns of this new hire, and so he faces a volley of rapid, suspicious questions. Emma, Kevin's wife. "Does your new secretary have nice legs?" Kevin. "I didn't quite notice." Emma. "What color are her eyes?" Kevin. "I haven't had the time to check." Emma. "What are the nail polish colors she uses, metallic, gel or neon?" Kevin. "Not a clue in the world." Emma. "Does she have a local accent?" Kevin. "I barely spoke to her, so I don't know." Emma. "How does she dress?" Kevin. "Very quickly." Kevin's funeral will be held on Tuesday. A boy goes to his father and asks him, "Daddy, how was I born?" "Ah, very well." His dad sighed. "One day you'll find out anyway. How shall I put it in a way your generation will understand?" "Well," he said, "Mom and Dad got together in a chat room. Dad set up a date via email with your mom, and we met at a cyber cafe. We snuck into a secluded room, and then your mother downloaded from your dad's memory stick. As soon as Dad was ready for an upload, it was discovered that neither one of us had used a firewall. Since it was too late to hit the delete button, 9 months later, the blessed virus appeared. And that's the story." A mother had 3 daughters. They were all getting married within a short time period. Because Mom was a bit worried about how their sex life would get started, she made them all promise to send a postcard from the honeymoon with a few words on how marital sex felt. The first girl sent a card from Hawaii 2 days after the wedding. The card said nothing but Nescafe. Mom was puzzled at first, but then went to the kitchen and got out the Nescafe jar. It said, "Good till the last drop." Mom blushed but was pleased for her daughter. The second girl sent the card from Vermont a week after the wedding, and the card read, "Benson and Hedges." Mom now knew to go straight to her husband's cigarettes, and she read from the Benson and Hedges pack, extra long king size. She was again slightly embarrassed but still happy for her daughter. The third girl left for her honeymoon in the Caribbean. Mom waited for a week, but nothing. Another week went by, and still nothing. Then, after a whole month, a card finally arrived. Written on it with shaky handwriting were the words British Airways. Mom took out her latest Harper's Bazaar magazine, flipped through the pages, fearing the worst, and finally found the ad for BA. The ad said, 3 times a day, 7 days a week, both ways. A woman's garden is growing beautifully, but the tomatoes won't ripen. She goes to her neighbor and says, "Your tomatoes are ripe, mine are green. What can I do about it?" The man replies, "Well, it may sound absurd, but here's what to do. Tonight there's no moon. After dark, go out into your garden and take all your clothes off. Tomatoes can see in the dark, and they'll be embarrassed and blush. In the morning, they'll all be red, you'll see. She says to herself. Well, what the heck, it can't hurt to try it. The next day, her neighbor asked how it worked. So, she answers. The tomatoes are still green, but the cucumbers are all 4 inches longer. The teacher asked the class to use the word fascinate in a sentence. Molly put up her hand and said, My family went to my granddad's farm, and we all saw his pet sheep. It was fascinating, the teacher said. That was good, but I wanted you to use the word fascinate, not fascinating. Caroline raised her hand. She said, My family went to see New York City, and I was fascinated. The teacher sighed and said, Well, that was good, Caroline, but I wanted you to use the word fascinate. Little Johnny raised his hand. Now the teacher knew he was a bit of a scamp, but she was desperate to finish this lesson, so she finally decided there was no way he could damage the word. Fascinate, Johnny said. My Aunt Carolyn has a sweater with 10 buttons, but her breasts are so big she can only fascinate. The teacher sat down and cried. A rabbi is planning on retiring from his main occupation, which is giving circumcisions. Over the years, he's saved up all the foreskins from all the circumcisions he's taken part in. He looks at them and decides to take them to the local leatherworker to see if something can be made of them. The rabbi explains that he'd like to have a retirement gift made out of the foreskins, and the leatherworker agrees and tells the rabbi to come back in a couple weeks. A couple weeks later, the rabbi comes back, and the leatherworker hands him a wallet. All those foreskins, and you only made me a wallet? The rabbi exclaims. The leatherworker replies, Don't fret, if you rub it a bit, it becomes a suitcase. A man walks into an antique store and starts looking around. Suddenly, he gazes upon the most stunning bronze statue of a Siamese cat. He asks the store owner how much he wants for the statue. The store owner replies, It's $200 for the statue and $2,000 for the story that goes with it. The man replies, I really don't care about the story, but I do want the statue. As the man is paying for the statue, the shop owner says, All right, but I guarantee you will be back for the story. The man walks out of the shop and starts down the street, carrying the cat statue. When he comes to the crosswalk, he happens to glance behind him and sees 3 or 4 cats sitting about 10 feet away, looking at him. He shrugs it off and crosses when the light changes. He goes several more blocks and, at another crosswalk, looks behind himself again. This time, there are about 30 cats sitting there looking at him. The man starts to get a little nervous and picks up his pace when the light changes. By the time the man reaches the pier at the end of the street, he has now been running for several blocks. He was running because every time he turned around, there were more and more cats behind him. He looked like a Pied Piper. When he got to the end of the pier, he turned around once more and saw at least 2,000 cats sitting there looking at him. There were so many cats that there was no way to get off the pier without going through them, and he knew there was no way he was going to do that. In a panic, he turned toward the water and heaved the statue as far as he could. Amazingly, all of the cats ran right past him, jumped in the water after the statue, and never came out. The man, still shaking from his ordeal, immediately started running back to the shop. As he burst through the door, the shop owner saw him and said, I told you that you'd be back for the story. To heck with the story, gasps the man. Do you have a statue of a politician? The teacher was asking the end-of-day question that she asks every Friday. If the student got it right, they would not have to go to school on Monday. Little Johnny was determined to answer correctly. So he painted 2 black marbles black and rolled them to the teacher's feet. All of a sudden, she shouted out, Who's the comedian with the black balls? Johnny shouted out, Bill Cosby, see you on Tuesday. Before we wrap up, here's a little nugget of joy for you. Why don't scientists trust atoms? Because they make up everything. If you enjoyed that, don't forget to hit subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video with more laughs and good times. Stay awesome, and keep smiling.